The heart of the matter is learning how to collaborate with your husband, learning how to make lovemaking about love and about joining of souls, not just about specific acts and checking them off the list. Welcome to the Get Your Marriage On podcast. I'm your host, Dan Purcell, a sex and intimacy coach for married couples. My mission is to help you build and maintain a sexually vibrant and emotionally intimate marriage. Join me each week as we explore principles and practical tools based on Christian values to create the passionate, joyful, and thriving marriage you're designed to have. Hey friends, welcome to this episode of Get Your Marriage On. One of my favorite parts of what I get to do is field questions. I get them through email, I get them through a private Facebook group, and so on. So I've compiled these and I wanted to do a special Q&A episode. Today's Q&A topics have everything to do with questions I've received in the last few months about oral sex. So I'm going to address those in this episode today. Now, if you have questions that you want to ask anonymously, some of the best places to go for that is our private Facebook group, which I'll have a link for in the show notes. It's called Christian Couples Improving Intimacy in Marriage. I also have a form on our website that you can fill out to send me an anonymous question also. And if you include your email address, which is optional, you don't have to, I will email you when I pick up that question and address it on a podcast episode. So you know to look out for a podcast episode that addresses that question specifically. We are doing a special Get Your Marriage On cruise this October. We call it Intimacy. C is spelled S-E-A. I thought it was a little clever. It is a deep dive into intimacy in your relationship. It is October 4 through 10. We sail out of Galveston, Texas for a Western Caribbean cruise. So for these 7 days, you get to work with me and my team. We do a deep dive on intimacy in your relationship. This kind of a cruise is ideal for what I'd call the good to great couples. These are couples that already have a fairly good sex life, great emotional connection. They're just looking for a vacation to help them go just a little bit deeper and a little bit sexier. And that's what this vacation's all about. So again, you'll find all these details on our website, getyourmarriageon.com, and click events, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see the whole information about the cruise. You do need to apply, and we just have a few spots left. So if you're thinking about it, go ahead and apply now before all the spots get taken. All right, we're about to jump into some Q&A about oral sex, so let's go. All right, this question's titled, Nervous About Trying Oral Sex for the First Time. This is what she says. Hi, I have a curious question and hope this is a safe place to ask. My husband and I will be married for 5 years soon. We both come from families where sex was very taboo and never talked about. So honestly, our sex life didn't get off to the best start. Lately, we've been trying to learn what a healthy sex life can look like and how to be more comfortable communicating with each other. This week, we talked about oral sex. It's something we've never done before, and we really don't know much about it. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous, and I know he is too. But we both want to step outside of our comfort zones and try new things together. I'm not looking for anything explicit or porn-related. What advice would you give a couple trying it for the first time? Anything that helped you feel more comfortable or connected? Now, this is a great question, and I'm so glad that you're willing to venture out and try something new. That is so valuable for marriages, especially if you want them to last a long time, have a vibrant sex life. It's, you need some healthy doses of novelty over time. So good for you and good for you. And feeling nervous, this is totally normal. Now, I have an Intimately Us app, and inside that app, there's a Learn section. And inside the Learn section, there are several in-depth how-to articles on oral sex for him and for her. So sometimes maybe a written resource like that can help you in that situation. And sometimes, though, you can read all you want, but it's actually just the doing and trying is where you learn together the most. It's like trying to tell someone how to ride a bicycle by having them read a manual when they just get on the bike and start trying. That's how you'll learn the fastest. And by the way, give yourself a lot of slack. You're going to laugh a lot together in the process, and you're going to figure this out. But that being said, I do have some tips. My first tip is to shower first. Remember, the groin area can become like an armpit sometimes, so showering first helps with at least setting up for a very positive first experience. It helps with the smells and tastes a little bit better. My second tip is just to set your expectations low. Consider your first try a dry run, or say, hey, we're just going to experiment and figure this out. Now, expecting for you to have a mind-blowing orgasm the very first time you try it might be a little unrealistic. So just, tiptoe to it. Just give it a try without a lot of serious expectations of a certain outcome. My third is to communicate a lot. Ask, how does that feel? Or do you like that? Or you might say like, hey, that's too direct. Or my neck or my jaw is hurting. I need a little break. Like, talk about it. That's just fine. Now, you can get fancy with flavored lubricant if you want. And a close friend of mine told me that her husband really wanted oral sex, but it was always a difficult thing for her to give him. She loved him and wanted to get over that difficulty, but she struggled with every attempt. And then she read about the grapefruit trick on my Instagram account. And if you don't know about the grapefruit trick, it is where you cut the top and the bottom ends of a grapefruit and cut a hole down the center or the core of the grapefruit. So while holding the grapefruit the whole time, you slip the grapefruit over the shaft of the penis through the hole in the center. And this exposes just the head of the penis on the other side, right? And you make love to that area, just the head of the penis. Maybe it was a combination of the citrus flavored coupled with the playful and novel and silly nature of the way she's treating her husband really helped her get over her hang up. And she learned how to really enjoy oral sex in giving it to him. For another couple, he was the one with the hang up. He just felt dumb. He just didn't know what to do once his face was between her legs. It wasn't so much about flavors, but it was more about feeling clueless. What helped him was a couple of things. First thing is, before engaging, he would just take a moment, take a few deep breaths, and relax. Being nervous or worked up beforehand didn't yield great sexual experiences for both of them. He knew from experience. So he just take a moment and just kind of chillax a little bit. Second thing he tried that helped them is he would lay on his back towards the head of the bed, and she would grab onto the headboard and squat or kneel over his face. This put her in more control of the experience. And all he had to do was kiss and play and lick, and she could control the placement and, to some extent, the rhythm. It also made her feel in control, which was something he preferred in this setting. Another tip that helped him is he would spell out the ABCs with his tongue across her labia, and this gave him some direction or something to do, so he didn't feel as dumb. And as they got a little more experience, he'd be back in a position where she's on her back, and he would place one pillow under her bottom and two pillows under his chest. And this angle helped him with his neck from getting sore, and it gave him more time to try out things and do it. But ultimately, I think it just takes time and practice and a willingness to, be a little uncomfortable and willingness to be nervous and do it anyway. This is the same for acquiring any other valuable skill in life. All right, the next question comes from a husband. He says, I can't orgasm from a blowjob. This is what he says. My wife loves going down on me, but I've never been able to finish from oral. It feels amazing, and I get close, but it just can't seem to cross that line. Any advice or techniques that might help? I wonder if your worry about not being able to finish in this way is actually interfering with your ability to finish in that way, right? On a psychological level. When our minds are anxious like that during sex, usually because we're like goal-oriented in sex, we want a certain outcome, like a orgasm, the anxiousness releases adrenaline into our body. And adrenaline is the kill switch or a turn-off switch to all sexual arousal. So I wonder what it would be like if you went into this encounter with your wife without the goal of finishing in this way, and just enjoying it for the gift it is, because she loves doing it for you, right? And just appreciate the wonderful and beautiful woman you're married to. Assuming you do really appreciate her and think you're beautiful. I think you do. Sometimes some of this pressure could be that you want to finish in this way because your wife thinks she would be a more competent lover if she knew you finished in this way. So sometimes this pressure of I need to orgasm so that she feels like she's a good lover is working against you. Anytime sex is used to prove something, like prove that you're a good lover, it tends to rebel and interferes with your ability to actually get what you want. In this case, your orgasm in that way. So my first bit of advice is to learn just how to relax and calm yourself down. And if you're open to it, establish eye contact and make it as intimate of an experience together as you can. Sometimes putting all your awareness into your sensations will help. And I'm not just talking what you feel in your genitals. I'm talking about What do you see? What do you hear, taste, smell, feel all over you? This helps people get out of their heads and into their, should I say their other head a little bit better, right? Into your body. And if you'd like even more stimulation, and if she's open to it, she can massage the prostate directly or indirectly. She could tug on your testicles gently, or she can do this in front of a mirror if you want to add more visual stimulation. I'd focus less on performance or a specific goal and just learn how to relax, let go, and just have fun and enjoy the experience. Regardless of whether or not you're able to ejaculate from oral stimulation, at least you know you'll be having an intimate encounter together, and I think that's what matters the most. This next one comes from a husband. I titled this one, "She Won't Let Me Kiss Her After Oral Sex." This is what he says. "My wife won't let me kiss her after I go down on her. I love making out while we are in the throes of passion. I find kissing the most intimate part that can happen while we are in the physical act and think something is missing. Yes, we've talked about this openly. She's just uncomfortable with it. I have no issues kissing her after she gives me head." Okay, this is what I would say to this husband. Lots of women don't like the idea of smelling or tasting themselves, especially on their husband's lips. Now, the reasons can vary widely. Some can just be preference, other can be much deeper reasons. But whatever it is, it does trigger a disgust response. And disgust and passion often don't go together in this context very well, at least for your wife. Sometimes the answer is you just need to honor it and do a lot of kissing beforehand and just respect that boundary. Because you want to have great intimate experiences together. You don't want to make this become your new power struggle in sex. Now, here's an alternative view. This may not be the case in your marriage, but I did find this interesting. I read a story of a woman who didn't like kissing her husband after he gave her oral sex, but she had no problem kissing him after she gave him oral sex. So after a blowjob, she can kiss him, no problem. It's just the reverse was difficult. Provided it didn't have intercourse yet. Anyway, after giving a lot of thought, she realized this was a pattern that showed up a lot in her life. She was totally fine giving to everyone else, but struggled accepting and liking herself and receiving the goodness from other people because, frankly, she just didn't feel worthy of it. So she realized that her dislike of her own fluids was a symbol of her own discomfort with her own body and her own self-loathing and her lack of self-acceptance. So she pushed herself to like herself some more, to accept herself some more. And in the process, she expanded who she was, and she found more joy in life and in her marriage. One night, her brave act was that she could give him a blowjob after penetration. In other words, she was courageous enough to taste herself, and as a symbol of her accepting herself. Now, I'm not saying this is the rule for everyone, but sometimes a lot of hangups like this in sex are actually a mirror of who we are at large in our whole marriage, in our relationships, and how we see the world. So sometimes solving a problem outside and making it what it means about us and who we are to our core, a lot of times it's about self-acceptance, actually helps us overcome certain hangups in the bedroom. And vice versa. Learning to push yourself more in the bedroom to self-acceptance towards some sexual acts leads to self-love, self-compassion, and acceptance outside of the bedroom also. It's just something to consider. All right, this next question is titled, "The wife is unsure if she'll like or hate oral sex when married." So she's not quite married yet, but has a question. She says, "When I get married, I am thinking my husband is going to want to have oral sex. How should I tell him I have mixed feelings about it in a way that I find it vile and gross, but yet part of me says, I find this so exciting to give him pleasure and to swallow him. I am a shy and modest person. So there's that part that says, it's gross. But then the other erotic part says, this will be such a turn on. But with the shyness part of me, I would like to cry and be very emotional. Please help me work this through. I have these split feelings about it all." I say to this wonderful soon-to-be bride, I think you're perfectly normal to have mixed feelings about it. Now, what your head and what your heart are saying are different things, and that's okay. I once read that one of the regions in our brain, which is, to be really nerdy and technical, it's the anterior cingulate cortex, overlaps disgust and erotic interest. In other words, The same part of your brain that finds things disgusting can also find things sexually interesting, depending on what mood you're in. So, I'd say don't engage just to please him, but do it because you're curious and you want to explore it. And be honest with him about your feelings. And you might accept that, yeah, that was a disgusting, yet very erotic and turn on thing that I just did. It can be both. And by the way, congratulations for getting married, and you have a whole lifetime to figure this out. So don't think you have to figure it out all in one night. This can take time, and you might find things that work for you, or when you're in certain moods, things are going to work better for you, and that is just fine. The heart of the matter is learning how to collaborate with your husband, learning how to make lovemaking about love and about joining of souls, not just about specific acts and checking them off the list. Here's my last question. Husband wants wife to be more sexual and reciprocate oral sex often also. This is what he says. Tell me if I'm off base here. Maybe I've been so wrapped up that I'm losing perspective. I'm seeking advice on how to approach a conversation with my wife about a relationship. Specifically, my need to feel more intimately connected and desired by her. I've been married for 23 years with 3 kids still at home, and I am the higher desired partner, and sex has become infrequent, meaning less than twice a month, and feels non-prioritized, complicated partially by logistics around the kids. My love language is physical touch, while hers is acts of service, and outside of brief daily kisses, there is very little intimacy. I go out of my way to serve her needs, but I feel significant imbalance in our physical relationship. I focus 100% of her enjoyment during sex, including performing oral, even though I don't particularly enjoy it. Yet, she rarely initiates touch or engages me sexually beyond the necessary act, which she admits she doesn't think about. Despite direct conversations where she promises to try harder, the change is always temporary, leading to frustration and a growing sense of resentment because I don't feel desired. I need to have a curious, direct conversation with her to understand if she truly desires me, and if not, why, so we can work on it as a team. I need her to be honest about sex and why she doesn't engage more, and I need to communicate my needs clearly, not just for sex, but for emotional and physical connection, so that I can feel desired in our marriage. I want to frame this conversation around us and improving our relationship together, not just my selfish needs, and find out if there's something on my end of a deeper issue creating this dynamic. I am feeling lost, and I feel like I am spiraling. To this dear husband, thank you for sharing this with me. Thanks for your thoughts. I think you're on the right track. And I'm just curious, what would happen, do you think, if you were just as honest and vulnerable with her in sharing what you just shared with me? In other words, what if you just sent her and talked to her just as clearly and directly as you just spoke to me in that? What would that do in your relationship? I think people prefer to be married to someone that will be straight and honest with them, even if the message isn't pleasant to receive sometimes. In this situation, coaching is very effective. This is what my program Next Level is all about. It's catered to couples like yours who are in an otherwise happy relationship, but just wish things were better in the intimacy department. And this is where coaching can help, because coaching helps you kind of see the big picture better. It helps you see where you're stuck. It helps you see your patterns where you keep getting stuck in. And that neutral third perspective often is like the catalyst to help making real significant changes in your relationship. But let me give you some specific tips, at least to help you now before you try coaching. First is I recommend you listen, and listen some more. Go ahead and own the parts of you where you see yourself being selfish. Invite her to share with you the areas where she finds it difficult to enjoy sex with you, and that might be a little invalidating sometimes. You mentioned that you'd like to help her talk to you in a way without her feeling bad or guilty. Now, I think your fear of her being upset by such a conversation as you know you want to have is preventing you from actually being forthright with her. Being married means, frankly, you're going to have conflict. And being married means you're going to have hurt feelings sometimes. Sometimes you're going to be hurting your spouse's feelings by sharing honestly your experience with them. But remember, not all pain is bad, especially if it's productive and helps you long-term have a happier marriage. I mean, even dentists inflict pain to fix a cavity in order to save the tooth from complete decay. I think the concern about reciprocal oral sex in your marriage is common. Lots of people, men or women, wish their spouses gave as much as they gave in return. Although it's virtuous to sacrifice and do things, even things we don't necessarily like for our spouse's benefit, like in your example of giving her oral sex, even though you don't completely enjoy it, this is an ingredient for a happy, long-term marriage. Sacrifice is part of it. But if that activity is breeding resentment, and it's not going to help either of you. So if you resent giving her oral sex, then you might do your marriage a favor by stopping that for a time, because you decide you don't want to be the kind of husband that resents your wife. Now, I don't think conversations like this are solved in one setting. Bringing in a neutral third party, like coaching, can help you both see things a little more clearly. If you don't have a coach, maybe you have a trusted friend, or a trained professional, or a therapist, or a pastor, or some ecclesiastical leader that can maybe help in one way or another. By the way, at the Get Your Marriage On, we have a fantastic team of coaches trained specifically in this area. And you can try us for free, have a free consultation with us and see how that goes. So, thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with all your married friends. And now it's your turn to go get your marriage on.